Well, this morning you find me at the Dean Forest Railway here in the Forest of Dean, and I have all the essentials required for a great day out. I have steam trains, albeit quite short ones. I have the Sigma BF with the 35mm f2. I have the rain, which actually is a benefit considering how hot it's been here lately. And finally I have my extremely relevant railway hat. Albeit a new one because I lost it after the last video that featured this hat. Anyway, let's take some photos of trains. Now, any good everyday camera should, in my opinion, have very good JPEG options. This is why Fuji cameras have been so popular. It just saves you the hassle of having to edit your RAW files. Not everybody wants to do that, and I don't for everyday snapshots. So it's good that the BF has some really nice built-in JPEG options. I really like the colours in this camera. The standard ones, the rich, calm, and teal and orange are the ones that I've been using the most so far, and I really like them. I think there's a golden, like a warm gold sort of option as well that I've used. I like all of them. I think they're interesting. And the JPEG processing options in the camera are rather nice as well. You can increase the effect of each of these looks, stuff like that, or reduce it as well if you so desire. I think it's a really interesting setup. Now, there is one option missing, which I would like to see added to the camera, and that's the ability to adjust the sharpness of the JPEGs that are output. Most of the time it's fine, but on certain photos, occasionally they seem a little bit too sharp for my liking. And I would like an option to adjust that. Whether they stick in the menu or just in the JPEG processing menu, not too sure, but that would be a nice update. But either way, I really like shooting this camera in JPEG mode. Let's address a couple of the complaints that I saw about this camera. Number one, the screen. It's quite bright. I don't actually have any trouble really seeing it. The main complaint is seeing it in direct sunlight, and yeah, okay, it's harder to see then. So are EVFs. The S5 2X that I'm filming on, the EVF doesn't go bright enough in sunlight for me. My Z9 does, but that's a £5,000 camera, so the difference is much greater. There are very few EVFs in the price range of this camera that I would prefer over just having none at all, to be honest. They aren't that exciting, they're just another screen. It'd probably end up being vaguely low resolution. It wouldn't be a wonderful shooting experience. EVFs are nowhere near as nice as using a nice optical finder. Now, would I like an optical finder on this? Well, perhaps, but it would make it a bigger camera. And one of the nice things about this camera for me is how small and compact it is. You can carry it like this even. You can't do that with most other cameras these days. I really like it. So that's not an issue for me. And to be honest, I'd probably, if I owned one myself, put a matte screen protector over it, just to cut some of the glare off. Maybe Sigma could look at doing some etching of the glass in the future. Things like the Steam Deck have that on the higher end models that cut some reflections, but it does cut contrast, so it'd be a bit of a balancing act there. Now, the other major complaint I saw about this camera was the battery life. Now, it's kind of understandable that it wouldn't be all that amazing. It's not a very big battery. And I think they are very much constrained by the size of the camera body. But overall, yeah, it's not the best, but at the same time, if you just put it in standby mode a lot, I've done quite well getting entire days of use out of it. I would buy additional batteries if it was my camera. I do think that makes sense, and then you don't have to worry so much about it. They're not very cheap batteries, but it's a small company making a fairly niche product, so I'd kind of give them a pass on that one. I think it's really not as big an issue as people have made it out to be. You can definitely shoot quite comfortably on this all day. I'm thinking of this not as a pro job sort of camera. It's not really about that. It's an everyday camera that you pull out to take photos of your kids, to take photos of steam trains, the most important thing to photograph, stuff like that. And for that purpose, the battery life is perfectly adequate. Well, I've escaped the train for the time being, just not to soak up the sun, because I don't particularly like being in the sun, but to take some photos on a less used station on the line. But anyway, I've had the BF for a couple of weeks, and I've just really enjoyed shooting with it. There is something quite different about how it operates, and that appeals to me. I'm somebody who likes a puzzle, and that kind of works well with the menu system on this camera. I keep finding new features. Just the other day I found out that if you stick it in AFS mode, when you're half pressing the shutter having focused, you can just press up and down on the wheel and it will move the focus in and out. I don't quite know why, but it's a feature that isn't particularly obvious nonetheless, and I think that's what makes this camera so engaging for me, is that I can spend my time enjoying the shooting experience, and that's what reminds me of film with this camera. Obviously I made a video before about the ZF, and you will notice its conspicuous absence was because I traded it in against the Sony stuff, which didn't work out. Anyway, the ZF I enjoyed, but it harks back to film cameras in their design, but it doesn't really emulate the experience, at least not for me, because the experience of film isn't just about having tactile dials on the top. That's not it for me. It's about the pleasure of actually shooting a camera, it feeling like you're engaged in the process, and how you come away from that. And for some people that might be dials. For me it's things like more awkward cameras and more fun, if that makes sense. And I know that's not going to be the case for everybody, but for me this is an odd camera. It's a totally different shooting experience, and therefore it's fun. I find myself wanting to take it out with me, and that's not always the case with my other cameras. The S5 IIX is an excellent video camera and a great photo camera, and it doesn't make me want to shoot with it. Same with the Z9, phenomenal camera, and yet it sits on a shelf, and that is frustrating. The camera I use every day is a Nikon F3, because it's got that engaging shooting experience that I'm looking for. Now, obviously this is missing many things from an engaging manual film camera. It doesn't even have a mechanical shutter, so you haven't got that feel. It hasn't got any dials really. It's a totally different interface, and yet I find myself enjoying it more. Maybe that's just me, but if you're the sort of person who enjoys the shooting experience of taking photos just as much as the end results, then I think this is a worthy camera. And it does have one benefit, in that if you are a bit of a poser, everyone wants to know about this. I have never been asked about my cameras before, except maybe my Rolleiflex. I get stopped all the time by people saying, that's a cool looking camera, what on earth is it? It's kind of interesting. Here we go. Try and get it with a bit of the this building in the way, I think. For a fair old clip through here. So yeah, something I really like about this camera as compared to the ZF, even though they are not in any way really comparable, except I guess on price, is that this actually is small enough to hold in one hand like I hold film cameras. It's a totally different design, and yet I find this more comfortable. It's very strange. It's a nice thin shape, I like that. I saw some people complaining about sharp edges on a camera. That's not an issue in this design. I find it a nice comfortable thing to hold in my hands. I have quite large hands apparently, but with the grip on the front and the thumb rest on the back, I can just hold it like this all day. Now it is a little bit more tricky to shoot one-handed, I find, because you have to sort of choke up on it a little bit, and then it's quite hard to hit the power button in particular. But that's not really an issue. I think it is more of a two-handed shooting camera anyway. But and equally, if you've turned it on, then you can just shoot it one-handed without any trouble. But the thing I really like about it, and the thing that would probably go away if they stuck an EVF on it, or viewfinder of some description, is that it's so short in terms of height, you can just hold it like this as well. It's kind of nice. I quite like just walking around holding it like this. It's kind of fine. It's an interesting camera design because it is so different to so many other things. It's another interesting butterfly. There's quite a lot around here. Well, that's it for me at the Dean Forest Railway today. Lovely place. Do come and visit. It's not in Wales technically, but it's sort of on the border. It's a really, really interesting place, and it's been a really nice place to shoot with this camera, and the 35mm was a better choice than the 50 I previously used for some steam trains. Now, on the subject of the BF, I really, really like it. I think it's a very interesting camera, and it's fun. Cameras should be fun. Cameras, I think, used to be more fun than they are now. Now they're just very capable, but this is just interesting, and I enjoy shooting it. And that is a use case for me. A fun camera, one that I can take with me, and I can enjoy the experience of using and get good results. And I like the results from this camera, but it's more about the experience. I think it's a very enjoyable one. And on the upside, it also looks really good. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll catch you next time. And for those curious, the battery life is currently at 21% after shooting for about 5 hours. Not bad. Anyway, see you later.